Not only has he lived up to the hype, I think he has surpassed the hype. Now, maybe not the greatest ever. Like, I never heard that. I would never put a player who'd never taken a snap ever in that conversation. So I think when guys do that, that stuff drives me crazy. But as far as the expectations as a player that I would have had on this guy, he has played above the hype. And I'll tell you why. Most passing TDs first 5 seasons, third in NFL history. Most passing yards, third in NFL history. Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, the 2 guys ahead of him. Compare he and Peyton, who we talked about, he replaced seamlessly. His first 5 years, Peyton had 138 touchdowns, 100 picks. He's got 132 and 68 picks. We talked, he's got no running game. His defense has been average at best. He's had receivers kind of come and go, but not some of the, you would say they're just a stalwart in our game. He gets hit more than anybody. This guy has done as much as you can ask. And by the way, he's the number 3 pressured or hit QB in the game in his first 5 seasons. The other 2 guys who are ahead of him have played 10 fewer games. I mean, he's played 10 fewer games.
What would he have to do to listen, regular season, Peyton Manning's the greatest who ever lived, okay? But to surpass Peyton overall, like, does he need to win 2, 3 Super Bowls? When I think of the greats who have replaced greats, Mickey Mantle's first year was DiMaggio's last year. Robinson getting replaced by Tim Duncan.
Right.
What does Andrew Luck have to do to join Tim Duncan and Mickey Mantle as the successor to Peyton Manning to be considered that?
Yeah, he's going to have to get a Super Bowl ring. There's no doubt. His issue, and I will say this about Stephen A., his point of leadership. The one issue I would say about that, Stephen A., is he was so young in the game. And his personality, it's hard to trump your GM when you first get in the game. And I'm just saying, like, his personality anyway, he's kind of got that all shucks, you know, he's a good dude. Everybody in the locker room, he's got all that. He doesn't have that dog yet, but I think that is coming. I just think when you're asking him to get that in his first 5 years, it's hard to do. And he never wanted to be the guy that divides the team, right? So let's put it this way as far as over the hype. Just capitalist approach right here, right? Capitalism at its best. If he was free, how many teams wouldn't take him?
Right.
How many teams wouldn't take him?
That's not the issue.
That's
Are you Jeff Saturday? Are you Jeff Saturday or Max Kellerman?
The guy who he was in with RG3.
Who are you? You're changing the narrative.
I'm not changing the narrative. I'm saying, has he lived up to or surpassed the hype? He has surpassed that.
If every team would take you except for 2 or 3.
There's been a lot of first-round quarterbacks who have never played.
Just because most teams would take him does not mean that he's lived up to or surpassed hype. Nobody's saying that Andrew Luck is a scrub.
Nobody's saying that he's not a
stud in the making.
What hype hasn't he lived up to? What has he not done?
I just told you. They're 9 and 12. Well, wait a minute. They're 9 and 12 over the last 21 games he started. The AFC side. Wait a minute. I'm talking to Jeff Saturday here.
I'm with you.
Jeff Saturday and I. Jeff Saturday and I have been on the air together.
Absolutely.
I'm just answering your question.
Okay.
I'm just answering your question. Jeff Saturday and I have been on the air together in the past. You know what a stud I believe he is. But as it pertains to the specific question, in terms of the hype, there have been times where we sat up there, and even though we pointed to the level of protection he's not getting, we also pointed to his decision-making. We also pointed to the absence of growth. We also pointed to the fact that he needed to really go about the business of imploring the organization to come up with mechanisms to protect him better. We've talked about a lot of these things.
But you're blaming him for the GM stuff, Stephen A.
In the game.
You're blaming him for position.
But here's my issue. Is if this conversation happens last year after last season, I mean after the season two seasons ago, I would get it. But he's come back from that. Last year he had 4,000 plus yards, 30 plus touchdowns, 13 interceptions. The guy has played as well as you can ask him to play with what you've surrounded him with. This is the whole argument I have with Cam Newton, Drew Brees, right? If the team around you fails you, to lay it all at the feet of
Jeff,
he hasn't lived up to his hype, that's not right, right? He has outperformed expectations with what is around him. How many 100-yard rushers has he had in his career? Maybe 1 or 2 in a game in 5 years. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Quick, let me give the devil's advocate position, because I agree. I think he's basically lived up to the hype. The hype was tremendous for Andrew Luck.
And don't give the greatest player that ever lives.
The devil's advocate's Dan Marino.
But here's the devil's advocate position for me. Brett Favre was not Peyton Manning, but he was just about as good as has ever played the position. Aaron Rodgers has surpassed the hype. He wasn't hyped like Andrew Luck.
Right.
But even had he been hyped like Andrew Luck, in his first 5 seasons, he would have surpassed that hype, because after 5 years, I thought, I'll take Aaron Rodgers over Brett Favre, right? And Andrew Luck, I don't think too many people are going to take him over Peyton Manning in his prime at this moment, right? Even though Peyton may be a little better than Favre.
I would say you get that argument with Peyton Manning in his prime and Aaron Rodgers in your prime, you may have more people leaning towards 18 than you would 12.
Right.
So I think that's all predicated on who you're comparing him to, right? Brett Favre being compared to, Aaron to Brett is a different conversation when you're talking about Peyton Manning. When you talk about Peyton Manning, you're talking about he and Tom Brady, that's a class all by itself. Once that discussion happens, everybody else starts below that, right? So that one I can get, but if you compared Andrew Luck to a Brett Favre, now maybe when you say, hey, who would you rather have in the first 5 years? Those arguments are legitimate. But when you compare him to arguably the greatest ever in Peyton Manning, that's always going to be tough. And that's the Tom Brady thing.
Once again, that's not the question. The question is about the height.
Right.
And at the end of the day, listen, I'm answering again. At the end of the day, do I expect a lot from Andrew Luck because he has the ability? Sure. But at the same time, has he lived up to it? No. You talking about
absence of renegade. Frank Gore.
Hold on, Jeff Saturday. I heard you. Frank Gore's no scrub. T.Y. Hilton is no scrub. Moncrief or Dorsett are no scrubs. He's had some weapons.
He had some weapons. Is Frank Gore getting 100 yards a game? Is he giving him any help? So we go offensive line.
Most of these guys are not.
We have to go. Such a good debate.
Andrew Luck's holding
you up, Stephen A.
I'll see you again,
Andrew Luck's holding up his end. The Colts aren't.
I'll see you again, Jeff.
Me and him will be
I'll find you in the hallways.
I'll
find you in the hallways.
All right, good stuff.